Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another Mattel Jurassic World review, and yes, it is another Fierce Changers figure review. And honestly, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I continue to buy these things. I said when I had initially discovered them and mentioned them in news videos that I probably wasn't going to buy all of them, and it's not something I'm particularly interested in, but then you buy one, and then you're like, you know what? Mattel gives you this mindset where it's like, if you don't buy it when you see it, you may not have a chance to get it later, because that happens so often when it comes to this line. So right away, I see it, listed for purchase on Amazon, so I'm like, well, I better hurry up and pre-order this or add it to my cart or something, because if I decide later I want it, I won't have the chance to get it. It's just a struggle, it really is. So I ended up purchasing quite a few of these. Here we are now with another one, but at least, I can get the reviews up for you guys, so then you can decide whether it's something you want to purchase or skip out on, even though I've already got 2 reviews up of these, but I guess why not keep going with them. But you can see this time we have the Tyrannosaurus Rex and Ankylosaurus. This is a different style figure from the others. You can see that this is in a smaller packaging, and the figure as a whole is smaller than the others. So I guess we have different size ranges for these as well. And there's, of course, the really big T-Rex version, which this is a T-Rex, but it's the small T-Rex, and then there's a larger T-Rex version that kind of turns into a Jeep, I believe. And then you can see here on the back, we've got a shot of how the dinosaur is going to transform. And then you can also see the other 2 figures that are in this wave of Fierce Changers, which is a Baryonyx, and it looks like a Parasaurolophus, and then a Carnotaurus and Stegosaurus. So, like always, let's pop this out of the box and check it out. So here is our newest version that we have on the channel of the Fierce Changers figure. And I will say that this one probably looks like the ugliest one so far, just because the head sculpt doesn't look that great. Like on the Indoraptor and Giganotosaurus, I felt like the head sculpts looked pretty darn cool, but the head sculpt here of our T-Rex just looks a little bit goofy. Definitely, of course, these are exaggerated figures. They're not meant to be even remotely screen accurate, clearly, but again, I just feel like the head sculpts of the other 2 were at least a little closer to what you do see on the dinosaurs compared to what we see with this T-Rex version. But it is pretty cool, again, to have, a smaller range of these figures if you want to sample them, because the other ones were like $25, I think, and these ones are only around 15. So if you are interested in maybe grabbing one and checking it out in person, these ones aren't the worst way to go, because at least it's not super expensive. But again, it looks okay, I guess, for what these Fierce Changers are here at first glance, but the only way to truly tell how horrible this is with a closer look, so let's jump to it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our T-Rex, you can see it looks pretty atrocious altogether. The head sculpt definitely doesn't look like a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World style T-Rex head. To me, definitely looks really off as far as that goes. Obviously, it's meant to be a very exaggerated looking version, but it still looks off as a whole. The teeth are horrible on this one, and that's one thing on the Indoraptor and Giganotosaurus I was actually impressed with, was how nice the teeth looked, but this time the teeth are huge, and they just look really, really bad as a whole. We do have a green for the majority of the head here of the T-Rex. You can also see kind of like a light gray here for the lower jaw. Do we have an articulated jaw? Yes, we do. Doesn't open very wide, though. But you can see, again, we've got the teeth painted with kind of like a yellowish tone, like a light yellowish tone. We do have a tongue sculpted there on the inside of the mouth, and it is painted, but it's a little hard to get in there and see it. There doesn't appear to be any other paintwork or anything there on the inside of the mouth. And one thing I'm kind of surprised to see on this is that there's kind of a lack of fine detail. The others had really nice sculpt and detail on them, even if they were, exaggerated. And this might be one of the first instances that I've seen from a Mattel figure where I'm kind of underwhelmed when it comes to the fine detail. There's just not as much on this as you often get for a Mattel release. Also, you can see the eyes are painted with a yellow, given a black pupil, and they do kind of have a glossy look, so they at least have that bit of realism to them. As you lead back here into the neck, you start to kind of get like rows of osteoderms, or at least a row of osteoderms on each side, moving down the course of the neck. And then as you move down into the body, the detailing looks pretty decent down here. Not amazing, not anything that, is really blowing me away, but it looks okay. It is completely covered here, though. Well, maybe not completely, but it's definitely covered quite a bit with very large sort of osteoderms. And you can see that they are popping up all over the place here as you move through the course of the T-Rex. What's weird about this one is there's really not any color for the T-Rex. on the upper side. Like you can see, it is all just this green. There's no designing, no patterning or anything. It's not until you head down here to the underside for the Ankylosaurus that you kind of see the Ankylosaurus color leading up and almost creating like a flame-like appearance moving up into the, Tyrannosaurus part. So there's more color variation, it looks like, on the actual Ankylosaurus than the T-Rex. And you can see, again, the arms have that really awkward look where you can very clearly see that it is meant to be a leg. And these ones are particularly worse, I would say, than the larger versions because you can't even change the nails here to kind of give you like the fingernail look. Like it just straight up looks like a broken and bent leg. And then as you move back here, the rear leg does look a little bit better than what you see on the arms, but still not exactly good, especially because you can see the actual toes and everything here on the rear side, but you can see the T-Rex toes here on the front side. Very interesting. And then, of course, you lead up into the tail. The tail is exceptionally short, like they always are for these figures. You have a few more osteoderms up there, and really no coloration. If you lead here along the underside, though, you can see the Ankylosaurus version, and you can see that we do have some alternate color for that. So I'm going to try to, redo this guy and transform it. So straight away you can see that club tail popping up, and you can also see the Ankylosaurus head popping out. We've also got to get these out of the way here so that we can pop the underside open. And I'm probably doing this wrong. I always do. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. We've got it open now. So reposition these potentially the correct way. Wow, I think I got it right on my first try. That never happens. So we now have the Ankylosaurus head out, and he looks really grumpy. And then you've got to kind of redo the arms here to change them into legs. So we're definitely getting somewhere with that. We can push the toenails back in. There we go. And then we bring the legs up. And then kind of, if you try to get them into position where they look like they probably should be bent, I think the figure as a whole looks incredibly awkward now because its legs are pushed forward so far. It actually doesn't really fit very well. So I guess we're going to have to, I don't know, we'll figure it out when we get it back down on the table, how it wants to stand. But you can now get a look at what the Ankylosaurus version looks like. You can see that we actually have some decent paintwork on the Ankylosaurus version. We've got some really cool orange eyes. We've got a nice black pupil there. Again, that nice kind of satin look for the finish there for the eyes. You've also got a beak painted out with a gray. You can see the nostrils on it, and you can see that the spikes here are also painted with a gray, which looks really nice. And we actually have some decent detail here on the face of the Ankylosaurus. Again, not overly impressive, but definitely better than what we had seen on the T-Rex version. As you lead back into the neck, you can see the scale detail actually does look really nice there in the neck region. And then as you move back up here into the body, of course the limbs are going to be the same, except you now have, the toenails and everything looking better than what we had seen on the T-Rex version. And then you also have this coloration here, that kind of lighter tone that's sort of just stripes and splotches across. And then as you lead out here, you also have the club tail. The club tail kind of sports like some osteoderms or scutes or something on it, but also some quite nice and vibrant scale detail. So the Ankylosaurus absolutely looks better, in my opinion, than the T-Rex did. If I were to display this one here on a shelf, which I don't know that I'm going to display any of these because I haven't so far, but if I were, I would absolutely go the route of the Ankylosaurus because I think the Ankylosaurus version looks way better than the T-Rex version. So I think we now have it looking kind of better. I can't quite get that leg down perfectly. Maybe if I bent this up a little bit. No, that's about as far as it's going to go. This leg, for some reason, is like, there we go. It's kind of off the ground a little bit, but whatever. It looks okay at this point. But as far as a size goes, lengthwise, you were looking at about 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters. The highest point is definitely going to be the back, about just shy of 2 3/4 inches, or about 7 centimeters. And of course the Rex would be a little bit taller, but I don't feel like we really need a lot of measurements for this figure. We will get a size comparison here in a moment, but I did want to go over the articulation because that's something you of course want to do. We don't really have any articulation in the neck and head at all as far as the Ankylosaurus goes, but we did have an articulated jaw in the T-Rex version, so that's something to keep in mind. You do have articulation in the shoulder as well as the elbow and wrist sort of here going on, because you've got a spot here and here where you can kind of maneuver it around and articulate it to get it into spot, but also helps you to create different poses and displays. You also have the hip, and then the knee, and then the ankle, which is really stiff. There we go. You can kind of, I guess, claim the articulation here of the toes coming out if you transition it into the T-Rex, but you also have the tail, but that doesn't really articulate either. Of course, they can articulate when you open this and, transition it back to the T-Rex, but it's not real legitimate articulation, I would say, not like anything you can use to create a different pose. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Ankylosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Ankylosaurus T-Rex Fierce Changers figure, and you can see that these ones are pretty similar in size to a Danger Pack, Attack Pack, Wild Pack style figure. And that's kind of the way they're also portrayed with their packaging, in a similar style to what you get. So, with the, Attack Pack, Wild Pack. So I think that's kind of like what we have going here as far as these. They're obviously a little bit more expensive than what you would get with an Attack Pack or Wild Pack because they're usually around $8, whereas these Fierce Changers are $15 on Amazon. So a little bit of a price difference, but very similar in size. And here is a comparison next to a standard Mattel Velociraptor because, of course, it's a figure that most people that are Mattel collectors would have at least one of. So one that I felt like would be a good one to bring in to give you an idea of the size of this version of a Fierce Changers figure. And now to show you the size difference between the ones that we were recently reviewing, the Indoraptor and stuff, and now the newer versions here that I've reviewed, the smaller version of the Ankylosaurus T-Rex, you can see there's definitely a massive difference in size between these two. So very, very different overall, but I feel like just overall the quality is different. Even though none of these are what I would consider even a good figure, the Indoraptor and Giganotosaurus versions were definitely way better as far as both the fine detail and the overall appearance. I felt like they looked cooler than what we see with these smaller kind of, somewhat cheaper versions. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Fierce Changers Ankylosaurus Tyrannosaurus figure is probably the worst one I've taken a look at so far. That said, it definitely has a fan base for it. It really does. I've noticed in the comment section of both of my recently reviews of these figures that there were quite a few people that stated that they do like them. Again, I don't really find a whole lot of enjoyment to them. I enjoy collecting pretty much anything dinosaur related and pretty much anything Mattel related, which is one of the reasons why I think I've pursued these the way that I have, but they're not exactly high on my want list, and they're definitely not something that when they arrive, I'm super hyped about. I'm usually like, alright, we'll throw it down here and then I'll get to reviewing it here soon. So it's not something that I'm really excited about, but again, as I said, it does have a fan base, which is good, It's not something, I would hate to see Mattel create an entire line and then just fail miserably at it. I would not want that. I love Mattel. I think what they do is great, and the fact that they are always kind of trying to come up with new stuff and give us new items, different things, different unique items. Love that aspect about Mattel. They've given us so much more in the Jurassic line than any company ever has in the history of Jurassic collecting. But that said, it's not always a win, Sometimes it is a fail, and I feel like as far as these Fierce Changer figures go, for me, it is a fail. It's not something that I like all that much, and they're even worse, I think, with these smaller ones because the detail just isn't there. It's not as nice as what you would expect from a Mattel figure. The only thing is, I think as far as this one goes, when it comes to the actual Ankylosaurus version, it's the best looking Fierce Changers figure that we've had so far because it doesn't look like an absolute horrible messed up mutant of a dinosaur. Kind of resembles an Ankylosaurus. The T-Rex version I can't say that for because that one looks rough, but the Ankylosaurus itself actually almost looks kind of cool. But again, it's just not as nicely detailed as the larger ones. It doesn't have as much articulation as the larger ones. And it also doesn't have as much paintwork as the larger ones. But for what it is, again, if you are a fan of the Fierce Changers line, it's not the worst thing ever, and maybe something you might want to pick up. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine on Amazon, so you can grab one for yourself. So make sure you check those links. Go grab yourself this Ankylosaurus T-Rex Fierce Changers figure if you are interested, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.